And now we're directly going to our last panel of the day. I would ask our panelists to join me on the stage at this point. I think everybody already did the wiring. I think there's some wiring still going on, or can you already join? Thanks. Yeah, we have our last panel of the day on generative AI. It's called Beyond the Hype, Understanding the Real-World Impact of General AI. And please join me on the stage. Please sit down. And we have with us today Ramin Mirza. He's joining us right now. Ramin Mirza is Vice President of Aleph Alpha. In his role, he is responsible for the customer journey and go-to-market of Aleph Alpha. His mission is to enable customers and partners globally to leverage the capabilities of generative AI for the sustainable growth and competitive advantage. Please welcome Ramin Mirza. Then we have Claire Helffer-de. Claire is leading generative AI for enterprise in the DACH region at Nvidia. Her role is to facilitate adoption of AI across organizations, working closely with Nvidia partners ecosystem, as well as advising on accelerating computing. In the past years, she worked on multiple ML and AI projects, as well as strategic partnerships in banking and insurance, and gained insights on best practices and pitfalls. Please welcome Claire Helffer-de. Okay. Then we have Jacqueline Leo. Jacqueline Leo is a Munich-based insurance executive at Allianz with more than 10 years of international work experience. As a generative AI solutions lead, she develops and applies generative AI solutions to drive high-impact business use cases across Allianz's global operations. Prior to this, she led a cross-functional machine learning solutions development team and held various roles in pricing, risk management, and financial steering. Please welcome Jacqueline Leo. And last but not least, we have Dr. Martina Flatscher. Dr. Flatscher has been employed as a strategist in the Technology Center for Artificial Intelligence at ZF since 2019 and oversees the internal applications areas of AI from product development to AI in the production environment. Her focus is on successful enabling strategies, also with regard to an active, constructive AI network. Please welcome Martina Flatscher. Now, the title of this panel is Beyond the Hype, and the idea behind this title is a bit that right now, you probably noticed it as well on our summit. Generative AI is a mega topic on our summit and also beyond in the technology industry as a whole. And the topic is so big that many see it as just another tech hype. So that's why we want to look behind this hype, beyond this hype. In our panel today, we want to discuss how generative AI is already creating real added value in companies and what requirements must be fulfilled for this to happen. And with that in mind, I would directly address the first questions to you, Martina. How do you already use generative AI in ZF, and which generative AI use cases are you planning to implement soon?
Yeah, sure. So we are currently in the process of introducing the technology and making it more widely available to people. And this concerns the general use of ChatGPT as knowledge base, but also we are doing proof of concepts in the area of software development, chatbot support, document handling, in order to understand the technology for us and then be able to bring Gen AI at every working level with the right framework, secure, and with the right infrastructure.
Thank you, Jacqueline. Is Allianz working on similar project, or what are Allianz's main projects in terms of AI at the moment?
We are also learning to adopt generative AI technology across the different aspects of the insurance value chain, right? So that include customer interaction, that include insurance risk assessment, what we call underwriting, right? That also include claim management and also internal operations. Maybe to give an example, right? We rather standard application of what we know generative AI can do. When we buy insurance, right, we know that we need to maybe answer 10 questions before we are able to buy insurance. But can you try to extrapolate that a little bit and think if a medium-sized manufacturer wish to be covered for cyber insurance, how many questions they need to answer, how much material they need to provide? Essentially, that out of that question, right, we know that we're looking for certain aspects for the purpose of risk assessment. From the multitude of documents describing the business operation, describing the internal maybe measures they have on IT processes, we can streamline that process for the purpose of insurance risk assessment.
Mm-hmm. Thank you very much. And I would just wonder, for both of you, because you're more of the kind of users or deployers of artificial intelligence, I would say, or maybe you can correct me if you have a different impression, but what, in your perspective, are the main challenges for applying generative AI in your companies? What difficulties, what pitfalls are there that you definitely need to overcome to make use of generative AI?
So we heard a lot in the morning with our keynote of IBM. There are clearly technical challenges like security, because it is even more important to secure this technology because the scope is much more bigger and people are using this technology much more than the non-generative AI use cases. Then clearly we have to cooperate with hyperscalers to ensure that we have a protected framework to use these pre-trained models in an industrial context and to meet industrial requirements, to have this protected framework. Then clearly challenges around APIs and interfaces that people can use the technology at all. But beyond these technological challenges, I see a much bigger challenge, the people. So we have to ensure that people understand this technology, that they have the awareness what this technology is able to do, how it works, and to know the role of each employee within the company if he is using generative AI. So we need for sure to increase the awareness and the understanding of the technology, and also upskilling people. So jobs are changing slowly with Gen AI, so it is really important to upskill people to ensure that this technology is used in a responsible way.
Mm-hmm. Thanks. Jacqueline, do you want to add?
Maybe I can identify with everything Martina already mentioned, right? Maybe I can emphasize on a couple of experience. Given Gen AI is a new technology, right? We see focus areas both in coming up with a solution that genuinely works, right? Sometimes not to the people's imagined level of quality, right? But nonetheless, to a sufficient accuracy that it is meaningful for it to be adopted for business. At the same time, right, because this is a common challenge in AI, assuming that we are able to achieve a 100% well-working solution, that people welcome it to be used in their daily business process. That very often involves people being open, people accepting that maybe their current daily work may change slightly, maybe they play a slightly different role. I think this morning in one of the sessions we also discussed that maybe the colleagues switch from manually delivering on some, manually performing some task into a role where they are, I think the word was orchestrating, this providing the knowledge to the model and also taking responsibility that the quality remains high towards, in the Allianz context, towards Allianz policyholders.
Mm-hmm. Thanks a lot. So there seems to be quite a lot of challenges still for deployers of generative AI, and I think that's a good point to maybe ask you, Ramin. Aleph Alpha is, of course, one of the main names, the big names in Germany when it comes to generative AI, and also as a provider of generative AI, mostly with foundation models in your large language model. How do you support your customers when it comes to applying generative AI in companies? Do you have special services? Do you have some procedures?
Well, so first of all, we are a technology provider, right? And the center of our mission is that we have state-of-the-art technology, and that's, what we want to focus on. And then it's really about how can you turn this technology into real business value. And we have two great examples here right now. Like say, okay, we have some thoughts in mind right now. We have the first initiatives, but then I think it's very important, and that's where I would say we really want also to educate the customers, not in terms of consulting, we are not a consulting company, but in terms of how to leverage such a technology and how really to convert this to business value. Right? I think that's very important, and personally, I think we are just at the beginning of something really, really big. I mean, we all know this, so I don't want to repeat this, but I'm not sure if we all really know how big the impact will be with this technology. I mean, because not making this a small thing, but if you're talking about, write an email, compose an email for me, or create some slide decks, okay, that's nice, I'm more productive, okay, but the real use cases are when it comes into the business models, right, of these companies. And I just, with ZF, because we are talking with them intensively, right, I mean, what about requirements management for engineering? Very complex regulatory requirements, DIN norms, you need to consider this for your engineering. How can AI and Gen AI help there? And Allianz, looking into the insurance area, for example, like what about the whole topic of claims management? How can you use Gen AI to help you to even create complete new business models out of this? And you can go through all verticals here and think about how can this really boost the way I create business, and I think this will also need the whole change of operating model for businesses going forward. Yeah? So this is something where we, of course, want to, a thought leader and technology provider, make sure that we ask the right questions, and with the help of our technology, make sure that companies like Allianz and ZF can really leverage this and create real value.
Thanks a lot. It's also great to have you here, Claire, because we have Aleph Alpha as the software provider, so to say, and Nvidia as the hardware provider. Lots of AI technology is based on Nvidia hardware. So I would like to ask you, what hardware infrastructure do companies need to successfully implement AI? What challenges are there in terms of hardware when it comes to generative AI?
Well, the thing with generative AI is that it's a complex computing problem, so it's not something that you can tackle with general purpose computing. You cannot train a model using standard servers, so this is what made the success of Nvidia in the last years, is that we invest a massive amount on R&D building compute infrastructures, not only the GPU, which is the most what we are very well known for, so the graphic processing unit, but it's also the core processing unit to train a model, but it's also networking, it's also storage, it's also operating the whole data center in a multi-node environment, so it's complex. And depending on what you're trying to achieve, so the complexity might be different. So if you're in the business of creating a foundation model, so like what Aleph Alpha did. So you train a model from scratch. This is very compute intensive. So you will need several thousands of GPU probably to do it. So depending on the size of the model, that might be a bit more, a bit less. But this is going to be a heavy investment, and this is something you will, depending also on what your offering is, something you might want to have 100% under control. So if you want to sell, for example, AI services to highly regulated industries or the public sector, then you will need to have a certain degree of security in the data center services you provide. So that's, I think, the most demanding part, say the one who are in the business of creating a model, but they're also the business who will probably fine-tune or p-tune a model or just inference, and these are also complex problems, so it's less compute intensive, but depending on the number of users you have and the number, or in the latency you require, so just think, so I guess everybody's been using something like ChatGPT recently. If it takes 3 or 4 or 5 minutes to answer, then it's useless. There won't be any acceptance from the users. There are other applications that might be okay if it's internal, an underwriter that wants to review a number of contracts or a number of templates, and it takes a few minutes, that might be acceptable. So depending on what you want to achieve, It's going to be a complex computing problem, and you also need to think that your compute will need to be close to your data. So we see many organizations overviewing this in their cloud strategy. It's extremely important to think of it from scratch when you plan your AI strategy, because it's going to be difficult to move the data, especially for regulated industries. And bringing the compute to your data, if it's not in the cloud, for example, might be an expensive investment. So, that's a challenging problem, and we're happy to help if there are any questions around this.
Yeah, thank you very much. I think those were very interesting insights from both the software and hardware provider view. And I remember that you two also mentioned the aspect of organization, of the education also of people, of training people to apply generative AI in an effective way. And I would just like to ask you two as well, how exactly do you manage that? How do you exactly manage organizational challenges? Like, how important is it for you, and how do you educate and train staff for effectively using generative AI?
Yeah, clearly, we see a very important role in awareness and understanding campaigns to increase awareness and understanding, because I think people has to understand that Gen AI is kind of a toolbox, and they need to know where can I use it, how can I use it in a proper way, to not give IP out and to not to handle your data confidentially. And the other thing is prompt engineering, so that you become efficient in your queries and that you can efficiently use Gen AI in your working daily business. Yeah. So it is a bit the mixture of technical education and also awareness and understanding campaigns.
Mm-hmm. Jacqueline, how is it at Allianz?
I think we definitely did all the bare basics, like which are like running running training programs, and that include like a technical training, right? The best expert towards other data scientists within the group, hosting hackathon such events, right? To get the building, the skill transfer, and the ideation. As well as the management training, right? So that's kind of what is this new technology, what are potentials, what are current maybe issues, what is the outlook, right? So both sides. So those and supporting this material, of course, right? We need to in parallel develop up, right? Kind of our internal guidance on how we use data and how we use AI in general, right? What our risk appetite in terms of this technology are. What I have observed over the year, right, what really makes a lot of difference is the fact that we are bringing several prototype or MVP, so early uses of generative AI, but applied in Allianz very specific local company problems, right? I think the reason Gen AI caused such a big wave, right, is that a lot of people, in the first time, they can relate to a AI technology that they can use, right? It can write emails for you, it can do a lot of things for me. I think that prototype, right, or early cases in a company, it sparks the same imagination, right, for people in a company, in the work context, and that really creates a lot of motivation for people to really understand the technology and also close any kind of emotional reservation about the technology, right? Both people understand it and also people are closer to it. Right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. With that in mind, and with this whole topic of human AI cooperation, which I think is increasingly important, I just wonder for you two, Ramin and Claire, when you design hardware or software for AI, for generative AI use, to what extent do you already have in mind this human AI cooperation? Like, how do you facilitate this cooperation? Perhaps already designing your software or your hardware from scratch. Is it something that you already have in mind when you create, for example, your large language model in Aleph Alpha?
100%, and at the center of our mission is that we, first of all, we strongly believe that at the end the human worker is sitting in the driver's seat, and I think that's very, very important because I see cases where customers say like, I tried something on your model and the model was wrong. Okay, interesting. It's interesting that as an AI solution, you expect the model is right, whatever right, by the way, means in some cases, but you accept like mistakes from human beings. So is this the way how we need to work with the AI solution, or should we rather think about that the AI is more an augmented intelligence of the human worker? And then this goes into the direction of the human-machine interaction. How do you want to handle this? And we strongly believe that at the end, it's all about the human worker being at the driver's seat, first of all. Second of all, whatever we develop is at the centerpiece of everything is that we give sovereignty and control to our customers. And that's a big difference to other, let's say, vendors in the market, where you have a closed box and you can, to a certain extent, decide what the output is, but still you get a very specific response at the quality, right? So what we develop is we want to hand it over to our customers. We want to educate in the best way we can, so that the customers have the sovereignty on all levels: data, infrastructure, algorithm, operations. That's very important. And then the customers need to decide, how biased should my model, by the way, be? What filter do I need to have above everything? How should the ethics of such an output look like? It might look different, even within a company, different in the US than in Europe, than in Asia. This might be. But we want to give the control to our customers, and we think that's the way how we should proceed as a society as well. We are at the driver's seat, the human beings are, and we need to decide going left and right and not let the machine completely decide, because in some cases there is not a right or wrong. It's about controversy, it's about data anomaly and so on. And who decides at the end like how the output is being steered? And we think it should be the customer.
Claire, is there any way that hardware decisions might also affect the human-AI cooperation, or is it mostly a software issue?
Yeah, I think this is because Nvidia is not only a hardware platform, but also most of the acceleration comes from the software AI platform that sits on top of it, and that's used by many AI developers. I think for us, the question is a bit different because we don't bring solution for the end user. So we bring solution for the developers, for the data scientists, for AI engineers, for anyone who's in the business of developing AI, but not really for the end user. So I think for us, it's mostly about bringing the platform that enables to have the most trustworthy possible solution. So we have tools that we have open sourced, by the way. So there's a suite called Guardrails, which enables to assess the trustworthiness, the transparency of a model, and it's also work with a number of open source model on the market. So these are more the areas where we believe we can contribute. And the hardware, I think the only way the hardware contributes to this is if you have highly performant hardware, then you can develop faster, you can develop better, you can provide a better quality of your AI development overall. So this is an indirect contribution in the end.
Thanks a lot. One question that I think is really important in this context, especially is this hype topic, is AI hype or generative AI hype or not, is specifically measuring the performance of AI, measuring the success and the performance and impact of generative AI as well. And I just wonder, especially to the users or deployers of generative AI, how do you measure, or how do you have any indicators for the impact of generative AI in your companies?
I think it's very context dependent, which use case you see. But in general, it is always about shorter time to market, shorter development time. So for example, in the Gen AI in software development, you can measure it that you develop software with less people in a shorter time. So it is always the same KPIs. Yeah.
And at Allianz as well, the same KPIs, or?
Definitely the same approach, right? So like Gen AI or normal AI or IT projects, right? Allianz is extremely disciplined in we do it if there is an expected business, positive business impact, right? And that's essentially if you have a vision of a solution, right? What is the status quo or ex ante, right? Kind of KPI, business KPIs, right? And you say that if I do this solution, I am expected to trigger an improvement on these certain KPIs, right? And then like kind of exposed, it will be this effect. And then based on the difference, essentially you like that will be quantified as impact. So that could be like kind of that could be customer interaction or sales related, right? Volume, quality. That could be productivity, efficiency driven, right? So kind of maybe average time to process something or like cost ratio of some kind. I think additionally, Allianz is a group, right? So Allianz is consists of local insurance companies in different countries spread around the world, right? So every country is slightly different, but some AI solution, right? We fundamentally always do insurance. Another dimension that Allianz always look at is scaling impact, right? So if we invest in a solution, right, what problem does this solution solve or improve? Is this a problem or improvement that can be expected to be effective worldwide, right, or at least in many different countries? If it is, right, so that then that multiplies the business impact that we can expect from such cases.
Mm-hmm. So the KPIs do seem quite context sensitive, and I just wonder, in the case of Aleph Alpha, when you're developing your models, you probably also have some kind of indicators for the performance, or also to compare it with other models. How do you measure the success or the performance of your models?
That's a very good question. So, and that's what I said before. Do you measure the let's say quality of a model to see which model gives you the answer when Spice Girls were founded, as an example? Okay, or if they pass a specific exam, or do we look into real life complex business cases where it's not easy to compare this even, right? It's really about what is the specific use case and then what is the value for the company. So it's a little bit like, hey, what is a better car? Is it Audi or BMW or what is it? Yeah, you can look from the left, you can look from the right, and some have a preference maybe. But again, coming to the mission of Aleph Alpha, like we say that we are talking about sovereignty here, and we believe the companies need to own this completely. Own how to customize this, own how to steer the output, because I mean, let's look how we live right now. Yeah? I mean, we all use Google Maps, I guess, right? So basically what Google Maps does, it shows us where to walk, where to drive, and so on and so forth. But what this really means is that Google decides how we move. I mean, we have to think about this. So this means AI in the future will be embedded in everything. It is already to a certain extent. It will be even more going into the future. So now my question, rather, I would like to turn this around, say, do you say like, well, yeah, so whatever the response from maybe a California-driven answer is, yeah, I accept this and I go this way because they decided it is this way, or do we want to change this route and say like, we own this, yeah, and if you want to go this route, then we can still go this route, but we decide if you want to go into this direction or that direction, because the one thing is about productivity and it's very context-driven, but what you cannot really measure is the new business models coming out of the Gen AI piece, right? How can you think about this right now? Yeah, we don't know. Yeah? I mean, Gen AI is a little bit like electricity, right? New things will be invented. Like, is it a wash machine now, or is it a dryer or a fridge or whatever? I think we don't know it yet, yeah? And I think this will evolve over time. But it's very important that who wants to own this, and I always come back to the sovereignty piece, and that's something which is very important as a company where you want to steer your whole company around this, change the operating model in that topic, create new business models for this, as the market and the customers, from our customers, will demand this anyway. So you decide, do you want to be part of this game, or do you want the game to be played without you?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Claire, is it perhaps a bit easier to measure performance in the hardware?
I can relate to both approaches because I've been working on projects that take different angle. In the projects I've worked on in the financial services industry in the last 1-2 years, it was very much focused on productivity gain. So anything that can work, and especially document analysis, semantic search, Q&A, so information retrieval, knowledge database, so that are the main use case. And sometimes the ROI is difficult to prove because you need to calculate exactly how much time the people working with these tools are going to save. And we know that, that the way business are run is that you first need to prove that if you make that investment, then after a year or 2 years, then you're going to make that amount in savings. So it's not that easy to progress, but there's a huge potential, obviously, in productivity, especially in software writing and all the document processing. The other angle we see, and which is mostly driven by the startup scene and the software developer, is which business are going to be disrupted by generative AI. So what is going to change fundamentally because we're going to do it differently with Gen AI, and there are industries which will be heavily impacted. So, for instance, all the consumer internet space or the online retail is going to have a different way of interacting with your customers. So if you're buying something online or if you're planning a trip online today, you will probably enter some keywords, you will go through a list of filters, and then you'll get 350 results, and then you add some more filters. So this is going, obviously, to disappear. Everybody will be looking at a kind of ChatGPT-like interaction where you describe your problem, you ask further questions, you say, you describe about yourself, what you want to do for your next holidays, and then you get some proposition, and you say, oh, no, I don't like this one, maybe I'll want to go to someplace warm. And so that is going to be the kind of conversation you're going to have with the machine in the future. So, yeah, I think both approaches are valid and they will coexist. But the biggest impact will be in areas where the go-to-market and the business model of the industry is going to be changed.
Mm-hmm. So we talked a lot about KPIs now for generative AI, but I think an important point in this discussion is as well to somehow distinguish or separate non-generative AI from AI, because of course there was AI before there was generative AI, which is the current mega trend. But of course, already before we had generative AI, we already were implementing AI. So I just want to ask, especially you, Martina and Jacqueline, how has the rise of generative AI changed your implementation strategies of AI? Was there a change, or was it just like before with normal artificial intelligence, so to say?
Should I go first this time? It's a very good question. On the principle level, right, at Allianz, right, we out of this business impact focus, right, kind of we don't hard distinguish between Gen AI versus other AI, right? Having said that, I think the dynamic does change a little bit with the introduction of generative AI, with the availability of generative AI, especially in the sense of, in relation to the Allianz ambition that when we do invest in building a solution, right, this solution, we want this to be scaled, we want this to be used worldwide, right, put it extreme, right, so that we recoup the investment. This need for scaling, for reusing, right, is only going to be greater under the context of generative AI because of the relative to other AI, right? It's even higher cost to maybe host models or initiate, right, the first use cases, and the scaling, maybe marginal cost is even reduced. At the same time, right, generative AI actually, especially in text, NLP, text analytics type of applications, right? The fact that now, right, in many of our use cases, we see that the solution crosses language barriers very easily, right? And such functionality, such features, right, that comes with Gen AI, that does help us a lot with achieving this reusability of solutions.
Mm-hmm. Martina, or is it for ZF?
Yeah, I think we have a clear paradigm shift. So through the medium of language, we have more opportunities to use Gen AI. Before, it was more focused on the optimization of products and processes, and you have to deal with the data, to handle the data in a complex manner. And now we can focus more on how to access information, and everywhere where we can use language, Gen AI has potential. So we bring AI use cases now at every working level, and we don't need sufficiently those experienced people that handle the data in a complex manner than before. So for us, it's a clear paradigm shift.
So there seems to be a real paradigm shift that also comes with lots of challenges. And I just wonder, again, to our provider side, more or less, so to say, do you think that your future role in this complex supply chain between the providers of AI software and AI hardware and the users of AI will change in the future? Because at the current point, I think you're more of a provider of products, so to say. Maybe change in the future more to providers of service, that you really try to support companies to implement AI in a more comprehensive way. Do you see this development, or do you think the product way, the product approach is the future as well?
Can go first here. So as far as Nvidia is concerned, we have no plan to move in the services space. The approach we've taken is to support the main players in that space. So we support every company in the business of developing AI products. So Aleph is one of them, but there are plenty of them out there. I mean, we co-developed the training platform for OpenAI. And we also work, for example, in the software space with the like of ServiceNow or SAP, on anyone who want to integrate Gen AI in their software suite. And as far as the implementation for enterprise goes, we have made the choice to rely on a very broad network of partners and of our ecosystem. So we work with all leading consultancies that have specialized in AI, Accenture, Deloitte, practically all of them. We work with the system integrator. We work very closely with the CSPs, so with Asia, with AWS, with GCP. So we've made the choice to go for an ecosystem and partnering approach, and not develop ourselves in providing professional services or developing AI. So we see ourselves as an AI enabler, but not as the one who develops the final solution.
And for Aleph Alpha?
Well, first of all, if I learned one thing, is never say never. But right now our focus is clear. We are state-of-the-art technology provider, point. And to be very clear in this point as well, it does not mean necessarily only LLMs. Right? So we will go a little bit into the application area, because what we see, if you have just a pure LLM, that does not provide you any value. Right? It's just a pure LLM. It's just a model, first of all, a pre-trained model. But in order to bring this value to the customers, you need a layer on top, which is about the best practices, how to prompt, right? For example, for a specific use case, how to classify something, how to extract information, how to combine structured and unstructured data. So there's a big layer before you come to the end user application. And this is something where we see that our experts and our AI researchers put a lot of effort into, and we see this again and again from the customers being asked, hey, help us with this. So that's why we will for sure move into this direction, but it's still, we see us as a technology provider. And as I guess every other vendor, we have strong partnerships with the ones who have the domain-specific knowledge when it comes to insurance industry or to manufacturing industry or wherever, where we need them to combine forces and to make sure that the value really is available.
I would maybe just pose a question to our deployers of AI. Would you say that from your side, you would need more guidance, more service from providers of AI hardware and software? Is it the better approach to actually do this in-house in your companies and just like buy in the products and then customize them for your purposes?
Please.
I think so. I think I'm not the right person to discuss this because I'm located in pre-development. So.
Okay. That's a very sharp question, right? Firstly, it's something that we internally also discuss a lot, right? So like both a general like build ourselves versus buy from external decisions, and also the especially kind of do we need our own like Allianz like GPT models, right? Is out of the box enough? Is fine tuning enough? Is our own foundation model enough? So such things are discussed a lot. Currently, I would say that kind of we don't have a decision. We also don't exclude any options, right? I think for Allianz, right, what would be important. Having in-house expertise, right, is important, so that if we have to build, we can. If we should evaluate external providers on their offer, we can give a very qualified opinion, right? Eventually, the product meets exactly Allianz need, right? These kind of things are important, right? So if we we can tailor them, right? We can use maybe another solution with Allianz proprietary data and then integrate that in maybe an existing Allianz sales and claim system, right? As an example, right? Kind of achieving those, achieving the end, which is a business need, right? And having the sovereignty in the sense of we are not purely reliant on external, right? Is very important, right? I think other decisions in the end is a combination of those considerations as well as the economics of the individual decisions.
Mm-hmm. I would just like to add to this point of in-house expertise, especially in the context of streamlining AI solutions across the whole company. You know, to have solutions that really work in all units of the company. For example, a chatbot that you can use basically in every section of the company. How do you manage to streamline to implement AI across the company and not just in very limited, very specific units of your company? Is that a concern for you, and how do you manage that?
Is that my question?
To you too. Yeah.
It takes very much effort, right? It takes a lot of effort, so it's not something easily achievable. Allianz invested many years into common IT infrastructures, right? Common data platforms. So I mean, common as in like across many different countries, trying to like identifying what is a best practice business process in doing certain things, right? And then like encouraging, right, where this is applicable, where this is relevant to the local, right, in the specific country's market, right? That we, as a group, we try to adopt a best practice and conversion practice. And I think all of that lays the groundwork for when we do build a common solution, right? Like this is most likely, right, relevant for multiple subsidiaries to benefit together. I may add that we do now have through a partnership with Microsoft, we have an in-house ChatGPT solution, right, which people do use, right, to use it as a ChatGPT. A lot of the solutions I'm referring to, right, they are not, they're using a GPT or other like a generative AI model, right, but consolidated for a particular purpose, right? So for example, for increasing customer retention purpose, right? And then these kind of solutions we wish also to be widely adopted.
Mm-hmm. Martina, do you want to add to that? Or
I mean, we cooperate with many providers and hyperscalers like Microsoft, so we always think about what can we do inside and what not. And If we do it ourselves, we have to ensure that it is developed in a trustworthy way, and if we do it with an external provider, then it's the same story, but we have to ensure that our framework is protected and we can use those models in a secure way.
Mm-hmm. So I'm seeing that we're slowly already running out of time. Maybe just to summarize, I would say definitely that generative AI is not a hype, and we're definitely beyond the hype already. We've seen many interesting use cases, but also challenges still to tackle in the realm of generative AI, and also interesting approaches to solve them from the hardware and software side. So thank you very much to our panelists, and a warm round of applause for them, please. And yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.